We all engage in many different types of conversations. We speak to friends, family, colleagues, neighbors. No matter the situation, there are certain speech behaviors that are less desirable. This video will identify 5 of these behaviors. If you like the video, click the like button, and if you're excited about how language works, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell for all updates. The first speech behavior is being non-acknowledging. Conversations depend on the mutual efforts of all speakers involved. Acknowledgement tokens are needed to keep conversations going, tokens like "oh, okay" and "I see." In all conversations, there's a so-called first pair part and second pair part. The first pair part is the first speaker asking, requesting, offering, or assessing something. This calls for a second pair part response, whether it's answering, accepting, rejecting, or disagreeing. Before a first pair part tells a story, they most often use pre-tellings to test the second pair part's interest in hearing the story. We wouldn't risk losing face over telling a story that no one cares about. Pre-tellings are designed to test the other person's interest. In this example, Ben pre-tells that he got something that's wild. Bill's question, "What?" is a preferred response to this pre-telling, urging Ben to say what it is. A brand new grill. If Bill hadn't asked the question, we might not have had a conversation at all. Sometimes non-acknowledging behavior can lead to interruptions, as in this conversation.
We've kept everything pretty much under control though this year.
You can't rustle around if bad things are happening.
Yeah, Roger got his nose.
You know what happened to one of my aunt's friends out in Iowa? Like when she was younger, she had a headgear from races, and these 2 girls were wrestling around, just playing around, wrestling. And one girl pulled her headgear off her mouth and let it snap back.
Wow.
Isn't that horrid? That's horrid.
Yeah,
Blinded her for life. Isn't that horrid?
Notice how Jason tries to initiate a turn at talk 2 times and not being allowed to because Derek's focused on telling his own story. Jason's not so good at acknowledging either. First, he doesn't answer Derek's question, and then all he says is "wow" to this crazy story, before continuing with his own.
And everything like that.
What happened to my Aunt Florence when she was a little girl?
What happened?
And like I guess when they had candles on trees, she lit her hair on fire.
However, unlike the other speech behaviors we're about to see, non-acknowledging and even interrupting speech behavior can be necessary in order to show the other speaker that you have a problem with what they're saying. This is Tom York from Radiohead being asked questions he doesn't want to answer. Notice his short responses, interruption, and dispreferred answer.
How did the relationships between you and the band change during the years? Were there any difficulties in...
Yep.
Can you be more specific?
No.
Why not?
Because it's our business.
But have you ever had the idea of quitting Radiohead and doing your own stuff on your own?
Next question.
Do you have a problem with these questions?
Yeah. I do not want to be answering questions on that for the next 5 years, and if I do, then I'll just stop doing interviews again. Because it's a waste of time.
Dispreferred means that the answer misaligns with the intention behind the question, in this case to get specifics. But in the vast majority of everyday conversations, non-acknowledging and interrupting speech behavior will be considered rude as it's outside the norm. When speakers interrupt, they often do so to make the conversation about them. We observed this with Derek, who didn't let Jason continue with his story. We've all had conversations with people who just couldn't wait for us to finish, trying to talk about where we went for vacation, but they couldn't wait to talk about their vacation. When other speakers instantly make it about them, it not only feels like a downgrading of our experiences, but also of us as individuals. It's also harmful for the selfish speaker, as they often don't get the same acknowledgements from us as we would have given them if they had acknowledged us. This becomes a vicious circle which, unless you're very overbearing, destroys most conversations. Ideally, what we should do is listen attentively and wait for our turn. Not because we're faking it, but because we're genuinely interested in what people have to say. If we're not interested in what they have to say, it's often because we don't consider them close in the first place, which is also an important lesson, by the way. Also, we shouldn't listen to other people forever. The different turns of talk in our conversations should be almost equally distributed. More formal conversational settings, however, are of course different due to a different hierarchy. Humble brag is when a person uses a seemingly self-critical statement that's actually meant to draw attention to said person's impressive qualities or achievements. Twitter is full of humble brag, like this one. She criticizes how she looks, but mentions that guys are still hitting on her, which is the focus of the tweet. Or here, she criticizes how her voice sounds, but still gets to mention that her segment is on Fox. Both tweets seek positive affirmations. The former calls for other people to tell her how effortlessly pretty she is, and the latter calls for people to actually praise her voice. In job interviews, we're asked about our greatest weakness. If we answer something along the lines of, "Sometimes I'm too much of a perfectionist," we're actually praising ourselves. And managers and CEOs will know it's not a real answer to the question. Humble brag makes a person sound extremely self-aware, so much so that people think it's fake. This is counterproductive in many social settings, courtrooms being one of them.
I was able to turn the things that I've lived through, my pain, my life experiences, into work, into action, into providing a voice for other people. But I selfishly found relief in being able to use what I've lived through to advocate for others, to bring light to these issues, to give a voice to people who don't have the voice and the platform that I have.
Here, Amber Heard uses the seemingly self-critical word selfishly to actually portray herself in a positive light. Because selfish can never be negative when put in the context of helping other people. Humble brag reveals how bad a person is at reading a room. It underestimates other people's intelligence. Well, some people's intelligence. Even Rachel Wood also fell in the humble brag trap in her interview with The View, where she spoke about her allegations.
But again, like I have a platform. I'm privileged. I'm white. I have resources, you know, and like I can't even imagine how alone people must feel that go through this, that do not have privilege, that do not have a platform, that do not have money, and they're alone. They're so alone, and so or they feel like they are.
The seemingly self-critical statement is worth mentioning all the privilege she has in order to make her sound more generous by including other, less fortunate people in her speech. However, it sounds more like she's putting herself on a pedestal, which is contrary to her intention. Somewhat linked to humble brag is grandiose speech behavior, which ends up sounding self-glorifying, or as self-glorification is called today, virtue signaling, a display of often fake emotions. Unlike humble brag, however, self-glorification doesn't have to include a seemingly self-critical statement. It's a type of communication that politicians, big companies, celebrities, and many self-proclaimed influencers can't seem to get enough of, but that many people find misplaced, annoying, and/or condescending. Not all people though, because Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are full of it. Self-glorification or virtue signaling is intended to show one's good character or moral correctness of one's position on a particular topic.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
I stand against hate.
It is time to take responsibility.
Self-glorification leads to the term grandiose. Grandiose language is common in political speeches and in some churches. In the next clip, the televangelist's fake emotions and a prayer that's unnecessarily detailed are designed to portray him as a righteous man.
We'll exercise judgment right now.
Because we have...
In the name of Jesus!
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
I demand judgment on you. I demand a vaccination to come immediately.
Yes.
You come down from your place of authority, destroyer. You come down and you crawl on your belly like God commanded you when he put his foot on your head in the Garden of Eden. No more!
No more. No more.
Or what about this guy who hears things and appeals to authority based on, you guessed it, what he's hearing? Not circular at all.
I want you to lift your hand. You're from Denmark. I heard the Lord say that God is connecting the dots, and there's about to be a divine connection, that you're going to see the throne of God established over the throne of Denmark. Many times people focus on the head or on the mind, on the logic there, but the Lord said Denmark is going to be known as the nation of the heart. And I even feel like there's about to be scientific and medical discoveries that have to do with the human heart. And I felt like
Perception is power, and power is the end goal of self-glorification, whether it be money, status, influence, or all of the above. Let's finish with the guy who doesn't display fake emotions, or any emotion at all.
Kevin, your dog just died.
The final category is being a right fighter. This doesn't mean we shouldn't argue, but it means there are different ways of engaging in a debate. Before watching debates that go wrong, let's observe some good principles when debating someone you vehemently disagree with. In Jordan Peterson's interview turned debate, Peterson finds ways of accommodating his opponent, Cathy Newman, rather than talk over her or make personal insults. Newman does everything she can to create division.
Does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male? Isn't that a bit divisive? I mean, you're making these vast generalizations.
I'm a clinical psychologist.
But Peterson has a different strategy, uniting. One of the ways he does this is praise the very group that Newman wants him to be at odds with, women.
I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women, in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development.
But still, women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really saying.
It depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine.
He even praises Newman, which surprises her.
I mean, look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have battled quite hard to get where I've got to.
I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right. I've noticed that actually in this conversation.
You can find more tips for debate tactics and ethics in this video. Link is in the description. In Tom Cruise's heated debate with Matt Lauer, however, things quickly got emotional and largely unproductive.
Do you understand that?
The difference is this was not against her will, though. But this wasn't against Brooke's will.
Matt, I'm asking you a question. Here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do.
Aren't there examples, and might not Brooke Shields be an example of someone who benefited?
You're saying, what, I can't discuss what I want to discuss?
No, you absolutely can.
But Matt, you're going in and saying that I can't discuss that. You should be a little bit more responsible in knowing
I'm not prescribing Ritalin, Tom, and I'm not asking anyone else to do it. I'm simply saying no, I know some people who seem to have been helped by it.
I think that you should be a little bit more responsible in knowing what it is.
Lauer is about to move on to something else, but Cruise can't help but state his opinion one last time.
You just communicate about it, and the important thing is, like, you and I talk about it, whether it's, look, if I want to know something, I go and find out, because I don't talk about things that I don't understand.
At this point, it's about winning the argument, which is a damaging mindset in a discussion, as it can have everlasting consequences. Ideally, it should be about debating the arguments and letting your opponent make up their own mind. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Or what about the unproductive progression or regression in this debate turned ad hominem?
Your point is to stop drugs and alcoholism by just people never starting?
Well, you two believe in this fantasy of addiction in which people lose...
Fantasy of addiction.
Complete fantasy. I didn't come here to be quiet.
Neither did I.
No.
I didn't come here to listen to ludicrous things like that either. It's an allergy of the body, and it's an...
Allergies of what?
We're supposed to be grown men here, and you're making faces.
How is it that people ever cease to be addicts if what you say is true?
Well, Santa.
It's terribly clever, but this is a very serious subject, and you treat it with immense levity.
What do you find problematic or annoying in conversations? And can you think of other examples that would fit into the categories that this video's listed? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe for more videos. Have fun out there in the conversations you have.